Hello everyone, my name is Jonghwi Park and I'm the head of Innovation and Education Program at United Nations University Institute for the Advanced Study of Sustainability, or UNU-IAS. My talk today is to share the key findings from a recent survey on how local education providers for sustainable development responded to the multiple crises during the current pandemic. This research was done by Dr. Philip Potter, who is presenting another paper in the same panel, and myself. Let me first explain some background of this study, starting with why education for sustainable development now. I would like to summarize the reasons why the importance of ESD deserves renewed attention in three folds. First, we are living in the world with constant changes and emerging challenges every day, be it from climate change, shortage of food, exceeding wastes, refugees and displaced persons, to the current pandemic. If you look at them more closely, it's not really difficult to realize those issues are all interconnected, and one chain affects another. To better equip with students with the skills, knowledge, and attitude to deal with those interrelated crises and challenges, and eventually build a just and sustainable future, integrating and mainstreaming ESD into formal, non-formal, and informal learning opportunities is really essential. In fact, the World Economic Forum in 2020 announced a set of competencies for future jobs, and many of them actually coincides with the key competencies in ESD identified by UNESCO, including critical thinking, problem solving, self-awareness or self-management, and working with others or collaboration. However, an ample body of research is wary of the roles or unmet roles of a higher education institution preparing its graduates with the skills necessary to handle a complex and highly interconnected world. The current pandemic just exacerbated such flawed system of higher education even further. To this end, we conducted an exploratory research with our network of local ESD providers called RCEs. Let me give you a bit of background of this network. UNU-IAS established a multi-stakeholder network whose main mission is localizing the global sustainable development agenda into their community and local context. It is a network with all levels of education, linking formal, non-formal, and informal settings. As of today, there are 179 RCE members across the world. This study is to understand the types of responses that our RCE members made in response to the pandemic, the benefits and values of the multi-stakeholder model adding to the current higher education setup in dealing with the current pandemic. And finally, their perceptions of critically required competencies to deal with multiple crises. The survey was done in July to September last year, with 62% of response rate among the RCE members. As you can see here, we have a fair distribution of regions among those responded RCEs, with Asia Pacific being the largest region, 37%, representing the respondents. These are actually well in line with the overall membership representation of the regions of RCEs. Now, 99% of the responded RCEs identified themselves as associated with higher education institutions, followed by civil society, local government, secondary schools, private sectors, and primary schools. Now I'll present some key findings, and because of the time limitation, I'm introducing only a fraction of key findings, and we really welcome all of you to read our full paper for greater detail. Okay, when we asked our RC members what are the activities they undertook during the pandemic to address the crisis, the majority of them said they provided information on local responses, followed by creating public awareness materials for community and offering online webinar workshops on COVID-19. It was actually interesting and noteworthy from the open text response analysis that the higher education institutions sometimes got really frustrated when asked to deliver the messages from the government or local authority without clear nuance for how to apply recommendations into local context. They actually felt their expertise were better used when they were asked to create public awareness materials or when they deliver webinars on the pandemic for the local context. Now, the multi-stakeholder partnership models were received and better valued during the pandemic and addressing crisis at the local level. By having this multi-stakeholder model already in place, our RC members said they actually enjoyed smooth communication and coordination among stakeholders in a number of urgent situations they experienced during the pandemic. And also they claimed that access to the information on multi-areas of expertise was much better with the stakeholder model in place. And likewise, they enjoyed also easy access to different sectors and linking them with the community. We also asked RC members which of the following core competencies are essential in dealing with the crisis that the pandemic imposed, defined by UNESCO's ESD competency framework, which I introduced in the earlier slide. Our RC members identified systems thinking to analyze complex systems and view them as a whole as the most critical for responding to the COVID-19 pandemic, with the marginal differences with the interpersonal skills, strategic competencies, and anticipatory skills. This result confirms how important it is for higher education institutions to educate on how a crisis affects multiple social, environmental, and economic systems as a whole, not as an isolated incident. Finally, the last interesting point that I would like to share with you from this study is the perceived priority areas of SDGs to work on during the pandemic period. As most of the members are educational institutions, SDG 4 quality education was by far the top priority without any surprise, followed by SDG 3, good health and well-being, and SDG 11, sustainable cities, and so on. What is more interesting here is the regional variation in identifying the priority goals. For example, RCs from the African region identified SDG 2, Zero Hunger, as one of the top three, which was seen in no other region. Whereas RCEs from Europe chose climate change as one of the top three priority areas, which was also unique to this region. We believe that this actually reflects the current trends and urgent issues of each region very well. To conclude, I would like to summarize our key messages in 3 levels. At the institutional levels, this study proved the multi-stakeholder model effective in facilitating smooth communication and coordination across the sectors to deal with multi-crises like the current pandemic. At the national level, it is essential to provide coherent messages and comprehensive measures to maximize the benefits of a multi-stakeholder model for ESD. Finally, at the global level, it actually brought out some concerns among the RC members that the pandemic may lead people to isolate or overly focus on the pandemic issues when the other urgent and interconnected issues like climate change, threatened biodiversity, and abusive use of resources and so on need equal and continuous attention. More points will be discussed during the live session during the CIES 2021, and I look forward to meeting all of you at the live session during the conference. Thank you very much for your attention.